Scary, scary, scary Jon Burkhart. I don't know if that's scary, John, or just quite sweet.
I don't know. I think it's what you expect on Halloween, Jackie. It is so good to see you. This is hot, and I can't even see what I was doing. I think I was gyrating as a bear.
So, what, you just found that lying on the floor?
Oh, I just found that in my favorite charity shop in the mountains of North Carolina, and my wife has gotten rid of pretty much all of my massive Halloween costume closet, we'll call it. I wear costumes year round. And I refuse to allow her to get rid of my panda. And I've got other massive creations just like this.
Well, that doesn't surprise me at all.
I'm giving out a trick-or-treat situation at the company I'm working in. I better put this away because then I'll ruin the surprise. That's for in 1 hour's time. Because happy Halloween! I think I might have seen, Jackie, some of your pumpkins. Did you have some pumpkins in the background?
I did have some. Well, you have to kind of go back a little bit. I was suddenly got to 3 o'clock, and I thought, oh my god, I should try a little bit harder.
Nice.
And yeah, a little bit of a mask.
Oh,
but
I like it.
Like you, I had a huge clear out. Well, like your wife, I had a huge clear out. My daughter went off to university, and so it was like, I don't need all this Halloween stuff. So I ran around the house.
Most of the stuff I own, you don't need. That's why when I go away to speak, because that's what this podcast is about. When I go away to speak, my wife gets rid of all my stuff, like genuinely.
She's not a hoarder.
But I live in the moment, so I forget about all the stuff I collect. So I forget. The only thing I'm really angry about is I had the world's largest collection of leather bookmarks, and that is literally gone in the rubbish bin about 15 years ago, and I still mention it to this day.
Oh dear. So we're here to speak about speaking. It happens to be Halloween, but let's go down the speaking trail.
Yeah.
You are obviously working away at the moment. You're speaking all the time and running workshops. How did your speaking career start? Because what interests me is whether it came from what it was that you were trying to get across to people, educate people around branding.
Yeah.
So which came first?
Which came first? The marketing career or the speaking? What are my two options? Sorry, I missed out.
Yes, the two options are: which came first, the fact that you wanted to that you were a marketer and you needed to speak to an audience about that, or the fact that you wanted to be a speaker and get in front of audiences.
Yeah. So weirdly, I've always known I was going to be a speaker. It's what I studied at university. Organizational and speech communication. That was my literal major. But then my dad said you have to kind of make money. So I got a marketing and an English sort of like subcategory called a minor, double minor. And so I've been doing what I've been called to do for a long while. But what I will say, there was this moment, and the moment was when I found out about this conference called South by Southwest and found that they had a super engaged audience, and that they're my people, even though they're from Texas and I'm from Tennessee, close enough. And it's where Twitter launched. And I just was like, I love social media. Why don't I become a speaker by going and speaking at South by Southwest? So I just put loads of talks together myself. Also, in the spirit of generosity, I helped loads of other people speak because I felt like I knew the formula of what they're looking for. And then my speaking career springboarded from that, because then I got a book deal after being one of the first people to talk about social media. I said, I've studied to be a speaker, yet I'm not speaking, because just so you know, you probably already know this, creatives in advertising agencies don't really get to speak. They sometimes get to present their work, but they don't get to perform, because everyone's afraid that they'll embarrass themselves in front of the clients by being too creative.
Yeah, that's a weird one, isn't it? Don't get me started on this whole kind of thing of people not knowing where to put creative people, and creative people being afraid of speaking out because they're afraid that people won't understand them or know where to put them or know what to do with them, which is exactly where I was when I started out on my own.
I mean, do you think there's two different types of creative people that we're dealing with here? Because I've always worked with a partner. Usually this person is a more person who thinks in pictures, and they've never really been that crazy outgoing. We've been a bit of a yin and a yang, and I genuinely think they haven't really wanted to present their ideas. But then there's this certain type of creative that wants the stage, and I would say a lot of them are extrovert, but of course, as you'll prove to me, is absolutely not true that speakers are extroverts. Some of them are.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think a bit like comedians or anybody that has something to say, it's quite a vulnerable thing to do, to step on a stage, and so when people hide behind what it is that they know, I don't know. We'll throw that open. If there's anybody out there listening, what do you think? Do you think that speakers are speakers because they are extroverts, or do you think it's the desire to want to share knowledge, which I think is a big part of it too? And I think it's why people do have are quite afraid of getting started, because it's a very scary, vulnerable thing to do.
Absolutely. I would say definitely, we'll see what other people think, but I would say definitely people has got to start with a base layer of wanting to share knowledge, wanting to share their opinions. But I would also argue that there are certain flavors of speaker who also like the provocation and the banter and like the call and response. So like you put on my little thing about me being a preacher, I really want there to be an altar call and for people to come down or just say something on Zoom, and that is literally respond to what I'm doing. And sometimes they just say, you're full of it. And sometimes they say, I like where you're going there, don't totally agree, but could I just build on it this way? And I say, yes, please. So then it just becomes a lesson in improv, building upon others, doesn't it?
Do you then go out to provoke? Is that something that you do consciously? You think, right, I'm going to provoke the audience into responding?
I do, but it has to be in stages. So I would say I try my best with a minor amount of empathy and emotional intelligence to read the room, and I try to find my moments when I can draw people in, and you have to draw them in a way that is won't put their guard up. So you have to find almost like an easy win way to get them in, and then you get them comfortable, and then it's the ripple effect of, oh, they were speaking, well, those people were speaking, I love it. So usually I pick my person and I test the waters, and then sometimes they're well up for it, and then the rising tide raises all the ships, because then once you get people going, then it's so much easier to keep it going. But it is just finding your captain on these interactive journeys, because I really genuinely, as you know, Jackie, I don't like doing primarily Zoom speaking, because I like building off the audience and learning new things. And that's where the dopamine rush is for me, and that is literally why I've course corrected, if we're using all these navigational terms, course corrected to focusing on dopamine storytelling as my main thing, because that chemical in the brain is deeply fascinating from a speaker's point of view.
Wow, let's go there. Tell me then. I mean,
I've opened up a box there.
Dopamine, storytelling. What does that involve? Is that about emotion and provoking, and what is that?
Well, I have to go back to another bear-based character, since I've started off with a panda bear. Let's go to Pooh Bear. Pooh Bear is a character from a story, as you know, Winnie the Pooh. And he said to Christopher, eating honey. Eating honey is a really good thing to do, but I don't like eating honey. Christopher's like, what? You love honey. You're a bear. Come on. No, I like the moment before I eat the honey, because it's the anticipation. of the honey. Once you get the honey, then you've already had the honey. And that is dopamine. So oh, Jackie, man, why am I so, I think it's just because I'm on this learning journey called life, but I so thought that my thing was about surprise. And you've done hula hooping with me. We've brought out miniature squeezable poo to have them identified as an emoji from even the older folk in the room. We've tried lots of things, and I never try it again because it's not a surprise again. But I thought my thing was surprise, and it is not. Dopamine and dopamine-based storytelling are around novelty. For Pooh Bear, eating honey is not new once he's done it. So it's just that moment before. And that sense of novelty is what I want to help speakers. I'm now, as you know, training people to be better speakers, but I'm training them to find ways to really connect with their audience, but also always trying to find new ways to get and keep their attention. Because once they've tried that icebreaker once, if they have those same people again, it won't be new. And I hear in my head you're saying, well, just speak to new audiences all the time and use the same old stuff. Yes, I could do that, but
well, that is exactly what I was going to ask, is because I know you can't do the same stuff. I know you. I've seen your presentations. I've seen you talking. I've seen you on stage. I held the poo. You know, I was there.
Yes, you did. I have visual proof.
And so it wouldn't work even if you did the same stuff with different audiences. I know, because of your personality, because of the way you are, that's a difficult thing to do. So how then do you teach other people to do that? Because obviously from my point of view, when I'm talking and creating content for speakers and getting the performance ready, you know, like I've had conversations with you around breathing and pause, pace and pause and all of those things. How do you approach teaching then? Is it literally from that dopamine inducing engagement side, or
it starts there, but it can't be there, but mainly because there's two sides of the dopamine that we have to deal with here. And I'm probably better at one than I am the other, but they're both important. So first is the aspect of desire involving in dopamine. This is the fuel. This is the short-term benefit. You know, put some calories in and you know, it's the fuel that gets us there. That's like the desire to fulfill something. But then there's this other side of dopamine that is all about control. And it's the side that allows us, like if I were you, when I first met you, I was absolutely fascinated by breathing and these things that I felt you were allowing or trying to help me control my release of dopamine, control my emotions, go along with the audience on a journey. Don't just give them everything and there's nothing left. So there's this desire where you get that quick and you get everyone on your team, like I talked about, gaining the audience's attention, but keeping it. That's where there's the control side of dopamine that I think is really fascinating. And that's where we're using dopamine mindfully and thoughtfully. And that, I think you're really good at that when you talk to speakers about the way they essentially control the way that they storytell, and that's through a lot of techniques that you're really good at.
Yeah, thank you. I would imagine though that you get quite a few people coming to you to train to be a speaker because they want to be just like you. Have you found that?
I wanted to think that because I have that weird thing called ego, and I think it's actually really not true. So where I would say is they initially want me to come in to energize the team, and usually there's a problem person on the team that and they've identified that, and they think that I can sort of rise them out of the ashes and get them over themselves just by playing the fool and just by genuinely being interested and concerned in how we get them to stop navel gazing, because usually it's this inward kind of, they're killing themselves with their own internal dialogue. So I feel like I initially get the gig but then I found in these workshops that it's really nice when myself and a team of other consultants, when we actually go through what it's going to take to maintain their energy levels, oftentimes we find that they're needing to approach the speaking from a totally different mindset as myself. But I do think I'm good at getting them in a lighter frame of mind. And sometimes it's the heaviness that builds up from the depths that kind of overwhelms you, and you can't actually get over yourselves, and you find yourself doing all kinds of awkward things with your hands, and then pacing and just being really unnatural and stuttering, and all kinds of nervous tics. And I do feel like I'm helpful. I find ways to help people get over that. But as far as ways for them to sustain that, sometimes my approach is not the right approach for them, and that's why I know other approaches.
Yeah, well, my thing is playfulness. I love working with people in a playful way, because people, as adults, we don't play enough, and it's a serious business. We need to play more, and you do, and absolutely you do. Let me show you this. I was here for this as well. Look.
Oh man, I love. Remember that.
Not balloons,
that's
bubbles.
Jake, that's Haley, that's John. You were literally just right. I think you just cut yourself out somehow, because you were just right there.
I wasn't on the stage for that one. I don't think I wasn't on the stage for that one, but.
You were on the stage for the other reveal, yeah.
I was. No, and yeah, it is playfulness, because it builds confidence, doesn't it? When you can get people to just sort of chill and play and relax into themselves, then actually speaking, all of those tics, as you say, disappear. People come to me and wanting me to stop all of those things, and actually you can only stop those things once you're confident in what you're talking about and who you are. And once you've got to that stage.
So I was just going to give you an example of how this play can kind of come out. There's an amazing guy that works for Apple. Well, he used to, but then in his spare time, he had a YouTube channel, and he did science experiments. And I've talked about the professor from the Netherlands that has accidentally, because he lets his people drink beer in the lab on Fridays, he accidentally levitated a frog. I use loads of examples of this when I talk about curiosity and just poking at things. But what this Mark Robert guy did, he's done all these videos and about science experiments. But the one that went viral was an obstacle course he did for a squirrel in his back garden. He started doing this over lockdown, like most good creative projects that have ever happened. But he's had to quit his job because he's just too famous. He makes, there's only, even Mr. Beast doesn't have the engagement that he has per video. It's insane. But play is at the heart. He has this whole thing he does with people where he gamifies it and things with Super Mario Brothers. But you look at everything he does, and play is at the heart of it, and it just makes me so excited.
Yes, there's a professor and a play researcher called Stuart Brown who said they've looked at the brain, and there's nothing that lights up the brain like play, and it's just so important. We're just going to break there quickly because Mark put this comment in ages ago. Can Jon lead the singing in Delfino Lounge again for Creator Day 24?
Always. Tell me when it is. Mark Masters.
Yeah, I think Ella Orr will remember that for the rest of her life. That was a impromptu singing, Ella. Standing on tables and stuff. That was a great day.
She secretly wanted the attention, and I felt like I needed to provide it for her.
And you did. You did. So with your speaking, I know from listening to you a few times now that there is so much information that you want to get out into the world, and that your talks are just so full of interesting and relevant and valuable information. And tell me how you manage to get your point across, and the kind of, so if people out there that don't know you, that are listening to this, how do you go about crafting your talks so that you get that playfulness in, so you get that engagement, you get the dopamine going, plus you get all of that information across? Where do you start?
I have a rough framework, and I have some set pieces that I try to alter each time, but the heart of them is true. And foolishly or not foolishly, I often have a prop that I think may work, because we know for a fact, it's proven with brain science, that the presentation of said artifact, like if I show you this, you're like, that's a football. I was like, well, actually, is it? But listen to the way it bounces. That sure bounced like a ping pong ball. So no, it's a football. No, but it bounces like a ping pong ball. Maybe it's a ping pong ball football. Anyway, an artifact. I often start there and build around a few artifacts. Sometimes I have to totally scrap that. Like, for example, let me give you a story that you were involved in. I have oftentimes, when I come down to speak at the amazing, there's a community down near where you live called You Are the Media. And it's great. Mark Masters has just been on this call asking a question about my singing and lack thereof abilities. But I love coming there to speak. I usually find some prop that I've never even imagined. So I had this idea about doing Venn diagrams. So how do you do a live Venn diagram where you get two people who would rarely ever cross paths, but You Are the Media brings them in, like Haley and Shandy, for example. I put them in a Venn diagram, but and I was like, I was their common glue between. So if you put two hula hoops together, you actually have a live Venn diagram. So I just play around with ideas, but then it turns out that I was listening to my headphones and walking down the streets of Bournemouth. So I didn't hear that I was cha-cha-chaing because the hula hoops had sand in them. And everyone was looking back at me. And I was like, why has no one ever seen a hula hoop? But I didn't realize that I was cha-cha-chaing to the sand. And so I was actually creating quite a ruckus. And I didn't realize it because my headphones were in. So then I was like, why don't we go on the streets of Bournemouth and do hula hooping and have a competition to see who gets noticed? Again, things build. And oftentimes it's, how do I do an interesting Venn diagram? How about hula hoops? And then more ideas come from that. And I think props are literally one of 10 things I do. Mostly it's to do with stories and finding ones that resonate deeply with myself that I think the audiences will like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, when you came on my podcast just after lockdown, and you were my first in-person ever podcast, and we did it in the auditorium, didn't we? And we got rudely interrupted by the ushers, which was funny.
Yeah, I love that.
But you spoke a little bit then about newsjacking, which I think is just a really interesting take on the news and how brands use that. I don't want to, obviously that's, we've kind of spoken about that before, but how is that now? Is it any better? I mean, the example we used was the fact that obviously David Bowie had died and Crocs put the Aladdin Sane on a croc kind of thing. And that is newsjacking.
Yes.
Do you think brands are still as bad?
That's funny because I'm working in this exact agency called Connects, and I'm doing a talk there in a week's time, and they don't know what's going to hit them because I have got another Crocs story, and everything I've been talking about Crocs for many years, but what I love about newsjacking is like all these people downstairs here, they are all on trend. We work with fashion brands, we work with creators, influencers. So we're of the moment. I wanted to actually film this entire podcast in our closet that has all these famous sneakers, but then I was like, oh, I don't want people to find out where we filmed it and then steal all the sneakers because they're basically empty boxes. I don't want to get anyone's hopes up, but essentially what they have is they have creators who are relevant. Where I'm adding my touch is creators have their audience and they're relevant to the audience. But where do we sit as a brand here, a customer here, and a massive circle of creators there? I still think we need to poke the big bear, which is, another bear thing, but poke the creators and make them better while also finding out other ways to surprise the customers because they're so used to making the same kind of content. I actually think our challenge with newsjacking is to be real, obviously to be quicker, but obviously more importantly to try different tactics that haven't been done before. Like the unboxing, we work in the world of fashion. Unboxing is as unboxing it has always been. How do we disrupt that? I want to basically add dynamism and difference to everything, which is why I called it dynamic difference. So unboxing, let's rip that up. Let's do something different. The way we newsjack the next big here, it would be the next big show. So The Crown is launching on the 16th of November. How do we do that in an interesting way? And it's going to be different than what they did when they found out that the Queen, rest in peace, does her scones the Devon way, because that's already been done.
Say that last bit again. The Queen what? Sorry.
That was the big newsjack of last year. Is thanks to The Crown, we found out that the Queen does her scones the Devon way, which is the correct way, because you basically put the cream on, so it's a buttery kind of sort of substance, and then you put the jam on top. The Cornish way is wrong and opposite.
Well, quite right. Then I am with the Queen. God rest her soul. Yes.
Yes, I knew you would be.
Yeah. Very, very quickly, I just because Mark's got another question there that I will get you to answer in a second. But just tell me quickly, what is fart storming?
So fart storm. Well, there's brainstorming, which I've been asked to do for many, many years, and that is gathering people in a room, deer in headlights, and they're hoping that my energy will carry them into saying something interesting and building on it in an improv way. But then I actually find that is no one ever comes to the table with things. But what is the difference between like a brain wave and a brain fart? So a brain fart is just like random. I had one on my walk to get a burrito, and it led to this thing I'm doing for Halloween. I just don't feel like we're putting ourselves into enough scenarios where we can gather all of our farts and then come together having something to say in this meeting of ideas. I just hate brainstorms because everyone comes with nothing, and they usually go out with the ideas from the person who spoke the loudest. So when people are allowed to collect their farts that they have in the shower, etc., but everyone has to come with 5 farts that just happened to happen when they weren't thinking of it, when they were thinking of something else and they had a brain fart. If we can bring our farts together, then we're going to have a much better session. And keep in mind, I never call it a brainstorm. A much better idea session.
Fabulous. I love that idea. Love that. I'm gonna use that one. Mark's question is,
I was really shocked that you mentioned.
Oh, you're frozen.
Fart storming, because ever asked me, but I love it.
Yeah, brilliant. Mark wants to know what makes you nervous on stage. I do too, actually, because obviously you're so energetic that it's hard to think of you being nervous on stage. But what is it that makes you nervous?
I can tell you exactly what makes me nervous. A lot of times, it's the tech setup. I hate to admit it, but if I don't have room to roam and feel like if the audience is kind of back too far, or if there's something unsettling about me having complete freedom. Sometimes I was in Copenhagen, and we found out that I couldn't get off the stage because you had this feedback with these massive speakers and everything, and I was just I hid behind the stage, and I made them film me from behind so you could see the audience and everything. But I was like, we've got to get some sort of interesting angle and film this in a different way, because you've literally hamstrung me. I had to stay on stage the entire time. So the tech setup is the first thing, but the things that make me mostly nervous is when the opening. I feel like any good sitcom which has a cold open, and then you have the meat of the message, and the cold open usually doesn't relate to anything. I need to get you in on my cold open, where I just get you to relax and like the topic. You don't have to like me, but you have to like the topic that we're kind of poking around. But if I have come across as too aggressive tonally, because maybe I'm trying to fight with competing audio, noises or whatever, then I lose the chance to own the room and get to what I really need to talk about. I think a lot of people don't understand that I'm trying to get your attention and get you to relax and get into this subject matter. I'm not automatically starting with the lecture. I never do that. There's always, just like a good sitcom, I have a cold open. Sometimes it's a heartfelt story, but sometimes it's not. But I have to get you emotionally ready to learn. And if my cold open fails, I'm usually scrambling in the first minute or two after that.
God, yes, I can imagine that's hard. Yeah, definitely.
And especially if I already know, or if I found out a minute before going on stage that I'm not allowed to go out in the audience, then I'm in a world of hurt.
Yeah. Do you have to find that stuff out beforehand?
Yeah, normally do, but sometimes there's like a tech issue that you would never know about. In this one case, it was the way they organized the tech on the morning of. They changed the tech setup, and so it's tricky, because as much as you and all the speakers that listen to you want to think everything's great, sometimes things just happen.
Yes, yeah, it's hard to be prepared for everything. Well, you can't be prepared for everything, but that just leads me very, very quickly, because we've done our half an hour, into what do you think makes a good speaker good and a bad speaker suck?
I like that question. So let's start with, since I'm an optimist, but I also like surprise, let's start with the bad. So what makes a bad speaker? I hate thinking of them as bad speakers, but what makes a less experienced person really not own a room? In fact, for me, it's always related to thinking the audience care. The audience doesn't ever care about the speaker. The audience only thinks what's in it for them. So it's always the bad speaker thinking that the audience cares about them, and they need to start with the audience. What is in it for the audience? And a bad speaker doesn't start with what's in it for the audience. A good speaker, obviously flipping the tables there, a good speaker is well aware of where the speech and the audience needs to end up. And they start with the end, and they build back from how we get that end. How do we make it to where we can start at the beginning and get there? And they have a very clear view. It could involve lots of experiments like what I do, but I always know where I'm trying to go to get, when it was community managers in Copenhagen, Aarhus, the second city of Denmark, I knew exactly what they needed to feel and what they needed to learn. And keep in mind, they already had TikTok and Twitter and all the platforms as the sandwich in between the keynote speakers. So, but I knew what they needed to get them fired up to go through this practical day of learning tips and tricks about the platforms. So I had to get them there. I knew exactly where they needed to end, and I just had to ladder back 30 minutes to see how I could get them there. So yeah, good speakers always have the end in mind. Bad speakers always have themselves in mind.
Love that. Absolutely agree with that. So tell us, Jon, where we can find you. Where can people come and find you? I've got a couple of places here that I'll put up. Where's the best place?
LinkedIn is the best, but my man Mark is doing my brand new Dynamic Difference website, which will be launching in the month of December finally. I am going to be speaking next year in Texas, South by Southwest. And then I am really busy with a really exciting consulting gig here in this office right there, and probably doing a couple of speeches and workshops a month between now and Christmas. But then things kick off when I go on tour for this new dynamic difference, particularly with a focus on social and influencer, since that's always been my world. But I want to come down. I want to go to Delfino Lounge. I want to come down to the coast. I want to swim in shark-infested cold waters with you. I want to still be sponsored by Cheez-Its, the rival brand from Matt King's brand. And I really need more Jackie and You Are the Media in my life.
Fabulous. Look forward to that. I really do look forward to that. I mean, there's so much more to talk about. The whole South by Southwest we didn't even really sort of touch on. But yes, lovely to speak to you, Jon. And thank you so much for coming on today. Just in terms of what I'm up to, if anybody needs to get in contact with me, I'm at powertospeak.co.uk. I've got a group program starting on Monday, actually. If anybody feels the need to start 2024 with more confidence about speaking to their audience, then come and check that out at Power to Speak.
Just a little plug for Jackie, but she was going to start this thing tonight, and she was going to make everyone wear costumes and everything, and it was just going to be awkward because you were all going to hide behind your costumes. But the reality is, she's great at what she does. She doesn't need to hide behind a costume. Neither do you. If you're really going to have the power to speak, you need to just be yourself and let Jackie kind of mold you. So maybe you should sign up for this next week. I'm glad you did it next week and not today, because I've really enjoyed chatting with you.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you. And good luck with all of your touring. And hopefully your tour will bring you down to the seaside very, very, very soon.
When Mark messages me, I usually show up immediately. That's just how it works with him.
Excellent. Well, you guys, if you're out there listening, watching a replay, then you are still more than welcome to stick a comment in the comments and or ask a question, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as. So if you're watching or listening to the replay, then please get in touch. This is a totally interactive website, so podcast. So lots of love, Jon. Thank you for being here, and I'll speak to you very soon. And
thank you, Jackie. I love what you do, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
See ya.